particular that was wanted to do tomorrow. He did tell me, he said, oh, I have this new deal, and I'm running stock trades, and it's fantastic, and I'm doing so well, and great. But I try not to talk to Ron about business. He'd tell me some things, and I would want to kind of, I don't want to talk about that anymore. You know, I really don't want to know about that. I just didn't want to know about all the little minutia that was going on. I just felt it was better for me.
So
you never had a relationship. We did business together, ever.
The question to me becomes, did Ron Levin flee because he was afraid the police would come after him for one of the scams? Or did he run to escape from an angry person Khan? Or was he addicted to foul play? Regardless, his close friends quickly start to suspect that he didn't forget about the flight, or sleep in someone else's house, or make a last-minute trip to the store. They think Levin's disappearance involves foul play. But because this is going to...
Cables is an online leading supplier of cables and connected products. With over 13,000 products, we have everything you need from the jack to the rack, including Cat 5e, Cat 6 patch cables, fiber jumpers, power cords, VGA cables, HDMI cables, modular jacks and wall plates, connectors, adapters, racks, cabinets, and many other products.
This is 1984. Mobile phones weren't widely used, so they couldn't just call him up or text him or use GPS to track him down. By 9 a.m., Ron Levin's friends missed the flight they'd planned to take to New York City with Ron Levin. Ron's mother, Carol Levin, calls the Beverly Hills Police Department to report her son missing. But the receptionist tells her it's impossible to file a missing persons report for someone who's been missing less than 48 hours. I need Mark and Laura Geller to tell me a lot more about Ron Levin's life since they knew him so well.
Ron was one of 2 people at our wedding.
No kidding.
We were really close to Ron. Really close. He knew our children. He was like Uncle Ronnie.
He was there when my son was born.
Do you think Ron would have run away?
I would believe that in a million years.
Yeah.
Ron liked himself. If anything, Ron liked himself. He liked the way he was. He didn't want to change anything, and that's why I can tell you he didn't go anywhere.
Ron was really close to his mother, and he adored her, and he would have never fled and left her.
And he needed all the creature comforts that he had, by the way. He wasn't, even if he was in a hotel for 2 or 3 days, he would get crazy to go home. Ron had a ton of nervous energy.
Yeah.
He talked fast. He worked fast. He was always running
But
to
he
somewhere.
was brilliant. You could ask him about anything, and he knew about everything.
That's part of the reason why we liked him so much. I mean, you could talk to him about any subject. You want to talk about art? You can talk about art. You want to talk about fashion? You can talk about fashion. Very few people can do that. He knew an amazing amount of interesting people. We met everybody from Andy Warhol to Bianca Jagger. Ron just knew
Everybody.
That's amazing.
hundreds of interesting people. He knew how to get into Studio 54. He was at every club. He held events at his house where he brought interesting people together. I mean, he really was a fascinating guy.
He was so colorful, and he always would meet the most interesting people, whether famous, infamous. It was a joy. It was really fun.
So certainly it looked like he had a lot of money, right?
Could not have money the way Ron lived.
Right.
He had multiple companies. Besides the legal research, he had a company that did camera work at night and then sold it to the TV networks where they would go out and they would do investigative reporting.
And he drove a Rolls Royce.
When we met him, he had a 1974 white Rolls Royce 4-door and had a driver at most of the time
Yeah.
in a white jacket. Always in a white jacket and a black tie. Ron was kind of a prankster, by the way. I mean, he pulled pranks. Ron was just fun. I mean, he was just a lot. I mean, we would do crazy things. I'll give you an example. Ron would pick us up once on a Labor Day, and he goes, "We're going to go tour Forest Lawn. We're going to look at their embalming rooms." We had the driver with the thing, and we pull up, and he said, "Now you're going to play. You're an architect, and you're my assistant."
No, I was a nurse.
But here's a pad, and we're gonna tour the embalming rooms, and we're gonna tell them that we're going to build cryogenic factories, where we're gonna freeze people, and we really need to see the embalming rooms. And he had arranged for a full tour, and they had the head guy meet us there. Ron was a prankster.
And he got up on it. He would crack up, and he would use the story over and over again. Everybody would crack up that he could get away with some of those pranks.
Ron knew how to play on people's greed. He knew what was civil and what was criminal. Let's say he would go in an art gallery and he would pull up with his chauffeur in his Rolls Royce, and he would say, "You know, I really like that painting. I'll take it. I'll send my chauffeur with a check." So the chauffeur would go with the check, and he would pay for it. And then he would call the gallery, and he'd go, "You know that other painting that I looked at? I really like that.
Take that as well.
I'll take that as well. Could you send it over?" And then he would pay for that. They would have to sue him civilly, and Ron was completely judgment-proof. There was nothing in his name. He had nothing in his name. He knew if he had corporations set up that they just couldn't pierce him.
So, pranking people sounds like a little bit scamming them.
You can call it what you like. He was a prankster.
That's what he loved.
He was like a mischievous little boy that was 40 and had gray hair.
Ron was a little boy. He never
He
grew
was a little
up.
boy. There were times where Ron pissed some people off.
Yeah.
And we would say to him, "You know,
You're
Ron,
gonna get in trouble."
someday somebody's going to do something to you, and not because you prank them, just because they're going to want to get back at you."
At 11 p.m. on the same day that Ron Levin is reported missing, records indicate he checked into the Plaza Hotel in New York City, which would seem to indicate that he's still alive. So I arranged to meet with the man who was the hotel's manager at the time, seeking his recollection of that evening.
1984, I worked at the Plaza Hotel.
Richard Leibowitz was the on-duty manager at the Plaza on the night Ron Levin checked in. So take us back through the events of June 7th through June 10th of 1984. A man checked into your hotel. What was this man's name?
This man's name was Ron Levin.
What kind of room did he have?
I believe it was a deluxe room.
Deluxe room? Pretty nice room?
Pretty nice room, great view, beautiful hotel.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was enjoying himself. He had run up a bill over $1,300.
Back in 1984, that's pretty substantial.
Very substantial.
So did that include like room service?
Yes, incidentals, the room rate, transportation, dining at the restaurants, yes.
Around 6 a.m. the next morning, hotel staff tries to reduce Levin's large tab by running the credit card he left on file. It is declined. Then what happened?
I was informed by the credit manager that we had a guest in the hotel that we were unable to obtain the appropriate amount of credit.
Basically, the credit card he was using for the room, to pay for the room, was maxed out.
Right. The credit manager had tried several times to reach this guest. The guest had not responded.
This brings us to the end of the first 48 hours following Ron Levin's disappearance from Beverly Hills. But at the Plaza Hotel in New York City, the mystery was only getting deeper. So what happened when you heard that he wasn't responding to the manager's call?
So the credit manager put a double lock on the room so that Mr. Levin would be unable to get into the room and would have to come down and deal with us. And before double locking the room, they inventoried the room. In the room was a silver metallic attaché case.
So the room was locked up with his suitcase in it, with all of his property in it.
Yes. And sure enough, in the evening, this security supervisor was going in a back staircase. And as he's in this back staircase, a gentleman is coming down the staircase, carrying a silver metallic attaché case. So the security supervisor says to him, "Sir, I'm hotel security. May I ask you what you're doing on our stairs?" And the gentleman responds, "Your elevators are out of service." And he says, sir, are you a guest in the hotel? He says, yes. And this guest says to him, I can't stop. I have a limousine waiting for me. So the security supervisor radios ahead, walkie-talkies, for backup, for assistance to meet him by the pond court. And as you may or may not know, the pond court in those days was the violin and the piano and high tea.
Luxury is where you are. That's Häagen-Dazs. Introducing 48 square centimeters of earning potential. Flawlessly designed. Undeniably versatile. Unlimited